What's up, you filthy casuals? Welcome to the Casual Shenanigans Gaming Podcast, a podcast all about the irreverent love of gaming. There goes the brightness on Dave's webcam. Perfect.
Ah, the darkness is taking
me. Perfect. I'm one of your hosts, Jeremiah, and tonight I am joined by Dave.
Am I really here, Jeremiah, or am I in the void?
And I am only joined by Dave because Joel decided to spend the third to the last podcast skiing, and James forgot and went to go see Black Panther tonight. Both of those are true statements. So, for anybody who missed our announcement last week, after over 5 years and 200 episodes, if you do the math, our average isn't great, the Casual Shenanigans Gaming Podcast is coming to an end. There may be future podcast adventures with some of us in the future, which is why I said future podcast adventures. But the Casual Shenanigans Podcast in its current form is closing down for now. The last episode will be recorded next week, but I will be putting out a bonus episode next week. This is episode 218 that you're listening to. I will be putting out an episode 219, and then we will be having episode 220, which will be the final one. Now, episode 219 is going to be a clip show. If you haven't seen that, it's like when a TV show puts together a bunch of clips from things that happened over the years and streams them to everybody. So I'm probably going to stream it live next Thursday night, our normal time. So Sweet. I've compiled quite a few clips, but if anybody listening to this would like to submit a clip for inclusion in the clip show, send me the name or the podcast number and a time code if you have one. A time code would be preferable because I've already forgotten about most everything that's happened in the last 210 or so podcasts. But if you would like to include one, please go ahead and do that. And you could also write into casualshenanigans@gmail.com if you want to be a part of the final show and tell us things. It's up to you. Some people have written in with some mail. Should I read one? I'll read one of the pieces of mail tonight. I'll read one of the shorter ones.
Yeah.
Iron Man 67 wrote into casualshenanigans@gmail.com to be a part of the show, just like you can. And he says, "Hello, everyone from the CSG crew. I've been following CSG since somewhere between episode 110 and 120, not sure where exactly. I found your podcast because of Jeremiah's Potato Masher project. It had been shared quite a lot on a few of the subreddits I frequented. CSG quickly became my favorite podcast. CSG feels like just sitting down with your best friends and talking about mostly gaming. I really appreciated your conversations and viewpoints about the gaming industry and gaming as an adult. I'm 23 and have now been working full-time for a little over a year, and your perspectives help me enjoy gaming more as I now deal with more adult responsibilities.
Big boy job." Got him.
I will really miss this podcast and listening to you all at work. Good luck with all your future endeavors, especially Jeremiah and your big boy job.
Yes!
I will continue to follow Jeremiah and Dave's channels, but I'll miss this podcast a lot. Thanks a lot, Patrick."
I'm so proud, Patrick. Single tear. It's beautiful.
JR101, I will not be your dad. I will be no one's dad. I don't want kids, especially not kids from the internet.
You have literally called yourself the podcast dad before.
Yeah, but that's to you guys.
That's true.
My surrogate children who are all older than me and still don't listen.
It hurts because it's true.
I would do the normal rigmarole, like you can tweet at Casual Shenanigans, but really at this point, why?
Everything's on fire. Why bother?
I mean, Dave spent half an hour trying to figure out how to plug a camera into a USB port or something, so
it's not my fault. There's so many different colors now. Why are there two different kinds of blue? Oh, man.
Well, thanks everybody for coming out and being part of the show. I mean, we're just going to launch right into it. I mean, at this point, like, what are we worried about? Losing subscribers? All right. Dave, the main topic tonight, taking a hard left turn. We have a very serious main topic to talk about.
Yeah, actually, it's really messed up.
And we actually do want to, be serious about it. So I realized that nothing in my preamble was setting the mood, especially not all of my sexy whispering during the warm-up. But
ooh, and don't forget, guys, if you need some more of Jeremiah's sexy whispering in your ears, in your ear holes, you need to go over to youtube.com/germgaming, where he reviews tech in a voice that's basically like this.
Actually, I've been told it's very nasal, apparently.
I think it's because you were literally nerding out when you're doing those videos. You just can't help it.
So I feel like at the PC, the shadows are a little bit better.
That did not sound like PC.
What did it sound like?
It sounded exactly like you said penis, is what I heard.
Well,
I mean, Joel's not here, so someone's got to say it.
it's my budget hardware penis. All right. Dave, what's the serious main topic?
Wow, after that, this is really messed up to go into. We wanted to talk a little bit tonight about, I guess, social media, YouTube, Twitch, and boundaries. And it's just some interesting stuff's been in the news recently. We've heard stuff over the years, like Jeremiah, who's the older Call of Duty YouTuber? Nice guy, had his family be a part of the streams.
Woody's gamertag?
Woody's gamertag. I remember a story about him in like 2012. He confronted a subscriber with a shotgun in his backyard at like midnight that was like looking in the windows. So yeah, there's definitely been some issues with boundaries for for a long time. And you hear about like Logan Paul and in his neighborhoods that he has moved around to, where there's just throngs of children outside waving signs at all hours of the night and just absolute chaos. I feel like he kind of thrives on that, but I think for a lot of content creators, they definitely try, as their audience gets bigger, to draw a line between their content creation, their world online, and real life. And this kind of came to a head for a couple of YouTubers in January. Gavin Free, formerly of Rooster Teeth, and
I think
streamer
he's currently of Rooster Teeth.
Oh, okay. And Twitch streamer and cosplayer Meg Turney. It was the last week of January. They heard a gunshot and a window break, and they hid in a closet and listened to this guy search the house for them. Like, he went room to room, like opening doors, like looking under furniture. I guess he just wasn't able to find them quick enough and gave up. Police, he left the property and was backing out of the driveway when police got there. So that's a really good response time. Like, if he was just like searching the house for a few minutes and then gave up and was backing out of the driveway and the cops got there in like 4 minutes, it sounds like, that's pretty impressive. The cops blocked him in as he was backing out of the driveway, and this guy shot and killed himself in his car in front of their house. After that, there was a social media kind of investigation with this guy who had shown up, and they discovered a lot of ranting posts from him where he was very, very obsessed with Meg, apparently, and was furious with this Gavin, who was her boyfriend, I guess, and just had assumed, like, oh, you're not treating her right, I could treat her right. I'm going to come kill you and then treat her right, is basically what his social media said. So he was literally coming to kill the guy. And he had created in his head this relationship with Meg that, of course, didn't exist. That's a one-way relationship, through the content creation, especially her channel, I think, has a few 100,000 subscribers. There's a good chance that she hadn't even, noticed his account before. But court documents state, according to PCGamesIn.com, has an article on this. It's apparent that Giles, who was the guy who showed up at their house, his sole intent was to cause harm to someone. His phone contained more than 1,000 notes about the couple, one of which read, "I want Gavin Free to die alone with no children." Yeah, that's horrifying. And that literally just happened 2 weeks ago. So tonight, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, boundary issues. We're entering, I guess we're in a new age of social media where people really do feel like they have connected with content creators, which is, true to a certain point. There's comment sections, there's back and forth. If you run a Patreon page, odds are you've got a bit more maybe of back and forth with your Patreon backers at a bit more personal level. But I think for some people, and apparently this guy just didn't have any, like, a good circle of friends in real life to, notice this and tell him, like, hey, man, this is not normal. And maybe if you're in that kind of scenario, it's very easy to kind of create your own echo chamber and get lost in it. On a related note, as we're talking about this topic, over on medium.com, I saw part of this on Reddit a few days ago, and this streamer actually, she posted an article on it tonight that kind of ties in with this. Twitch streamer SCF3 posted an article where she kind of lays out her last couple of years of streaming. She's been doing it for about 2 years, so not a good amount of time, not like a huge streaming career yet. She's, I think, 23. And she's gotten to the point now where she's running some tournaments. She has like a Discord server and stuff like that. And of course, on Twitch, you have your subscribers, and you have now you have your own Discord channel with different chats and stuff like that. And she basically lays out this guy who started out pretty innocently. She also talks about how there's just tons of comments, even from the beginning of her channel, where people constantly asking, like, do you have a boyfriend? Are you single? Are you single? And like, that was why they were tuning in, which is, to me, just kind of mind blowing. To the point where she actually had a bot on her channel in the beginning, where when people would say like the word boyfriend, there was a bot that would say that she's currently married to Nintendo Switch, I believe is what it was, or something like that. Let's see, what was it? Oh, Smash Brothers Melee for the GameCube is her true love, is like what the bot would say. So she kind of ran with it as a joke, but in the article here, she's got just tons of examples of just this obsession that even in the beginning people had with her. But this one guy in particular apparently joined the Discord server, was a subscriber, donated constantly, and became completely obsessed with her to the point where he was asking to like chat on camera. And she explained, you know, that's just not a thing I do with my community. And she's trying to lay ground rules like, this is a general community, like I can't give you this like extra attention because that would be weird. And it got to the point where it was making her so uncomfortable, she started kind of saving all these weird chats and PMs, and her moderators were kind of putting it all together, and they're like, yeah, subscriber or not, this guy is not benefiting the community, he's making you uncomfortable, it's time to get rid of him. And when they were going through and kind of investigating this guy a bit, they went to a linked Reddit account from his Discord, where he had posted a post in r/relationship advice saying that there is this streamer that we talk all the time on her stream, and we have this really good friendship going, and I think she likes me, and should I like pursue the relationship? And thankfully, people on Reddit were like, the top comment on this guy's post was, "She's working. This is the equivalent of the barista smiled to me. She must be into me. She's not. She's just doing her job." And so yeah, I just kind of wanted to look at these couple of stories here and talk a bit about the kind of one-way interaction and how that can kind of be a real negative for some people, it seems like. I don't know. I think it's an interesting topic.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess, well, before we launch into it, Dave, would it be fair to say, I know I've never had anything close to this level of interaction with anybody. Like there's been plenty of people I've banned and plenty of low lifes on the internet, but nothing anywhere close to the level of either of these stories.
Yeah.
What about for you?
No, I'd say that most of you guys are pretty awesome. There's the occasional weird comment, but most of you are what I would call wonderfully weird, the good kind of weird. And, you know, I don't think there's a whole lot of obsession out there, but I think it's definitely a fact that we're guys on YouTube definitely helps.
It does.
Yeah,
and that's why I just want to say going into it, like we're going to have a bit of a warped perspective. So I don't want to, I want to speak from a position of ignorance, but then still give my opinion.
There you go. Yeah.
Because I can give some perspective on, and I'm sure you can too, on what it means to be sharing things with people on the internet who you don't know. Like we can have perspective with that, but nobody wants to date me. So I think, to me, it's always seemed like the thing that's really changed is the way people interact with each other with the advent of the internet, or the internet becoming as, I say widespread is almost underselling it, as all-consuming as it is for a lot of people, right? Like, so many people our age spend hours every day mostly interacting with the world through a screen. So whether it's a phone or a TV or a computer, like that's how many people spend a lot of their time interacting with other people. And I think that warps people's relationships with the world a little bit, because it's, on one hand, it's like amazing that you can use something with a screen and I can be talking to people all over the world in seconds, right? Like that's incredible. Like this is an amazing time we live in. It also doesn't necessarily mean that you're really getting to know people, you can instantly be in front of somebody, but it's not like you actually run into them in the real world and like they're part of your social group or something, right? But like,
right.
You can be thrust across their path. We have a public Teamspeak channel that people can just hop into, and occasionally weird people hop in there.
It's happened.
And I don't really mean always weird in a bad way. Just people hop in there who we would never hang out with normally. Like they're probably nice, but like we would normally never would have run across them. They've just shown up here. And I think
something
that warps.
I was just going to add on to that just a little bit. And something else too, is everyone generally has like a different comfort level and like different, what's the word? Like, you know, like social cues. Everyone has different social cues. But when we're all using the same digital methods of communication, sometimes it can be very easy just to not figure out what those are and just dive straight in. So, you know, that could be a thing too, where you have no cues to figure out what the line is sometimes.
Yeah. And like, to me, it's concerning mostly the way people spend so much time. I'm gonna sound like an old guy complaining about people interacting with everyone on their phones. And I use my phone plenty too, but given the choice, I would much rather spend time with my friends in person talking than I would over any sort of digital communication device.
Yeah.
Because communication is very important to me. It's a large part of what I do for a living. And it's something that I try to feel like I put effort into getting better at. And the thing you realize more and more is just communication's hard. Like communication is a lot of things. It's not just what you're saying. It's the way you're saying it and the medium over which you're saying it and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I think because so many people are living so much of their lives online now and then starting to share them with other people, the line just gets really blurred for people where they feel like they're taking part in this person's life. Yeah. And they're not. Like that's the best vloggers or streamers. That's what they're doing is they are sharing their life with you. They are sharing pieces of their life with you.
Yeah.
But they're sharing right. They're sharing a curated, careful piece of their life with you. And a lot of them, it's because it is a job.
Yeah.
And Shane does bring up a good point I do want to acknowledge. He says, some of us don't have much choice for that and have to use the internet or phone to talk, hang out with friends. Absolutely. And there's plenty of people I wouldn't be friends with if it wasn't for the internet. Like, I'm not knocking that.
Hi, Shane. Yeah, Ultra Grunt.
Like, I'm not knocking that in the slightest. I think it's wonderful. Yeah. I just think it can skew our relationships with people, though. Like, it's both a good and a bad thing. And, like, it does concern me because on my channel especially, I don't want people to get to know me. Like, I want them to get to know the work I'm putting out. Like, the channel's not about me. It's about stuff I'm interested in talking about. And this podcast channel is a little bit different. This is a little more personal. Like, we share more on this. But, I mean, Dave, I feel like your channel's the same way, too. Like, you're not talking about everything you are as a human being on there. You're talking about the stuff that's relevant to your channel.
Yeah, and we can wander a bit on the podcast, which is cool. But even then, like we have, pieces of the pie, if you will, that we're sharing even on the podcast. Unless you're Joel and you share everything, bathroom stories and all. But yeah, it's still a mostly one-way relationship, Like it's cool that we can interact with you guys, but there comes a certain point where, like, the volume of interaction, like, you just can't keep up with it.
Yeah, and gosh, it's so hard because, like, I want to be careful with what I'm saying here because I don't want to try to, like, I don't want to offend anybody or say anything wrong. And again, I only have a limited experience to talk from, but it's hard because when you're in that position of trying to choose, like, do I share my entire life with people or do I share a carefully curated part? Like, what do you share? Do you share the whole area that you live in, like a lot of vloggers do? Like, do you share everything about your daily schedule? Do you share your hopes and dreams and the school you attend and all that stuff? Or is it just like, hey, my vlogging channel is I just cook in my kitchen and you get to watch, right? Like, yeah. The more people share, those people, if they're good at it, they tend to be the ones who can draw the biggest audiences and make the most money and be the most successful. And, like, there's real incentive to do that because people feel like they're getting to participate in someone else's life. And everybody's a little bit voyeuristic at heart.
They tune in again and again. In that case, yeah,
and that's something like people like that. People want a connection with other people, and
exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that either. Like, we've gotten so many pieces of mail over the years and comments from people saying, like, "Thank you for this podcast. It means something to me that I get to listen to this when I'm driving to work, or I'm depressed at home, or I was going through a hard time and I could put this on and laugh for a long time. Like, people need connection with other people, but I think the internet is just blurring that line to the point where people who maybe already have a tough time empathizing with other people or interacting with other people, like, again, I don't want to like try to marginalize or talk down to anybody, but I feel like people who already maybe have a hard time doing that, I think the internet can make that even worse.
Yeah.
And it can make you feel like you're having a real relationship with somebody who you don't know and they don't know you and they may not want to get to know you.
I think, especially in the case of this guy who showed up with a pistol to these YouTubers' house, you have a scenario where there's actual mental illness there. Like, that's straight up, that's obsession, the 1,000 notes, like, that sounds like the kind of thing that you would get committed for. But maybe, again, he didn't have a support structure, a family or a circle of friends that could be keeping an eye on him. And that was allowed to create his own little echo chamber. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And there was just, no one there in real life where it really matters. Like when it comes down to it, to intervene there, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then I think, I'm absolutely not blaming either of the celebrities in this case, but I think it also should be a cautionary tale for people. In every scenario, you should be careful how much info you share about yourself. In the same way, and this is not victim blaming, but it's a protect yourself, be careful. Because again, a lot of people, the internet blurs these lines where people feel like they're close to each other and they aren't always. And just because you know somebody online doesn't mean you really know them or you really trust them. And it's the same thing when you know people in person. It doesn't mean you can always trust them. But again, just because you can be instantly talking to somebody halfway around the world doesn't mean it's a good idea all the time.
Like, it could be the FBI.
Well, it's incredibly easy to find out information about people on the internet. Actually, I don't think he'd mind me telling the story. Our friend Ben, he's one of the, like most people who are parts of the CSG community or members of the CSG community, he just showed up one day. And was like, hey, like, I like you guys, like, and he was cool and he hung around. But one of the first times I actually spent time like hanging out with him, was he told me, he was like, hey, I know I'm going to sound really creepy for saying this, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to, but he said, like, you guys, a lot of public information is actually available about you. And I don't know if you realize that. So you want to talk about it? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, please tell me. And he walked through and showed me how he was able to find tons of personal information about me. And he showed me exactly how and like what things weren't locked down and whatever else. And it really wasn't that hard. And I've realized that now, that I hire people like on a somewhat regular basis now. And I've noticed, like, when somebody puts in their resume, I look at it and the first thing I do is Google them. Like, I usually don't even make it down the top half of the resume. Tip for anybody trying to get a job somewhere. I Google them and I try to find, like, do they have a Twitter account? Do they have a Facebook account? Do they have a portfolio online? If I'm hiring a designer, like, I try to find out information about them. And you would be surprised the stuff people put out there. Or you wouldn't be. Maybe you wouldn't be surprised at all. But people put some ignorant stuff on the internet, like acting like nobody's going to see this. And
oh man,
we're still like in the early days of the internet in many ways. Like, this is something that, as far as high speed, easily accessible internet on devices you carry with you all the time, like, we're in the first about 10 years of that. And man, I hope we all figure this out, because I feel like this stuff's going to keep happening. People are going to keep getting swatted. People's houses are going to get broken into. Like, people are going to be harassed, not because they've done anything wrong, but just because they're sharing their lives on the internet, and either maybe they share a little bit too much, or maybe somebody digs too deep. Like, it can go both ways. And I mean, it's a little bit scary. And again, that's where I have to say, like, I guess it's not as scary for me, but I have a wife, I have friends. Like, I don't worry about myself so much, but I do worry about people finding out too much about me online, which, if you notice, like, none of us show our wives on the show or talk about their names most of the time, or like, well, no, we say their names, but like, we're very careful about that because it's none of your guys' business. Like, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I don't have anything against.
That's just the line that you choose to draw. I mean, that's your prerogative. I think, I mean, you'd hope that people would respect that, but as we see with the internet, even if it's just because they can. A lot of times, you know, people will go after someone's information just to prove that they can sometimes. Mm-hmm. But it's funny thinking about this. It could even go the other direction, because think about in the last couple of years, how many YouTubers or content creators or influencers or what have you have been like arrested for like being a child predator and stuff like that. Like it could go the other direction too. Which is even weirder to think about. It's very strange to think that like when we were growing up, even maybe when we were in college, even I would say, I remember my parents freaking out that I opened a Facebook profile. Like Facebook, like people can see all your information on. Like this is when it was still invite only. And it's crazy to think that it went from like, you know, never use your real name to the internet to so many people are Instagramming or live streaming on Twitch or posting videos to their YouTube about like how-to stuff or whatever, where they're marketing themselves. And for a lot of people, that just means like, oh, hi, I'm first name, last name from so-and-so, and here's my stuff. And it's like, man, maybe there was a middle ground we missed out on there somewhere, which I think is what we kind of try to follow is like the middle ground.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing I will say. Be careful how much you want to emulate people online, because not without fail, but 95% of the time, maybe the carefully constructed lives you see online are just that. They're carefully constructed. It's not sinister really, but it's no more different than an actor playing a role on a show.
It's marketing.
Like, it's they are creating a TV program of sorts that you're watching because you enjoy it. And most of it's not real. And that's probably not the actual them, even if you feel like you know them that well. And you got to be okay with that. Like somebody, like the article said, someone's streaming all day. Like that's their job. Of course they're going to be nice to you. They're probably a nice person. Like they're probably not a jerk.
Exactly.
But they're being nice to you because you're giving them money and it's their job and they want to make a living. Like their job's unconventional, but it's no more or less legitimate than plenty of other jobs out there. And yeah, they're going to be nice to you. But people aren't machines that you drop kindness tokens into until favors come out. Like that's not a relationship with somebody. That's being manipulative. At best, that's being manipulative. And don't do it.
Yeah, I think maybe to wrap up the whole topic, just be aware, guys, with how you interact with people. Like remember that there is a real person on the other side of the screen, which is obvious, you know, if you're watching someone's vlog constantly. But just remember that. How do I put this? Always maybe err on the side of like be a good fan, you know, don't ever make someone uncomfortable. Like maybe just think before you interact with someone, like is this interaction going to be like, you know, a thing that might brighten their day, or is it going to be weird? And it sounds like super like, oh, you got to be careful with everything you say, you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings kind of thing. But I mean, I think looking at the average interaction on the internet, I think the internet could do with a bit more of that overall anyway.
It could. And I mean, and take care of yourselves too. Protect yourselves. Like don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't owe anyone on the internet anything. You really don't. Like people get mad sometimes they don't put out a video often enough, or like imagine if you're one of those, like, if you're a streamer having to furiously apologize because your internet went down, you can't stream one day or something. Like it is a little different when it's your job, but remember, you don't owe people stuff on the internet. Like, yeah, if somebody treats you like that, they are not actually a friend of yours, because friends don't do that to each other.
There you go.
And please be good to each other. Please.
There we go. That's probably the best summary for a pretty grim topic. But just seeing those two stories just this month is like, man. Like it needs to be talked about more, I think, for sure. Yeah. I'm
gonna kick back in my chair a little bit here.
You know, if I do that, you can see my new merchandise.
Is that a Ranger Dave shirt that you can get at rangerdave.spreadshirt.com/Ranger Dave? It's gonna be in the podcast chat if you're watching live.
Shop.spreadshirt.com/Ranger Dave.
Is that shop.spreadshirt.com/Ranger Dave?
It is, Jeremiah.
Just one more time, you're saying it's shop.spreadshirt.com/Ranger Dave?
Yes, and for the next 4 days, it is 15% off all orders.
Whoa, you're running a deal. Look at you, businessman.
Now, Jeremiah, I can expect your order when?
I can expect that friend discount when?
Bonus.
All right.
Oh man, there's a can of worms in chat. What did you think about Star Wars Episode 8? We're going to save that for after episode never.
I don't want to get swatted, so I'm going to not tell you. All right, it's now time for What Are You Playing This Week? A part of the show where only Jeremiah and Dave talk about what they've been playing this week. Dave, what have you been playing?
I made an Arma mission this week and then didn't play it and saved it for next week because I got a review key of Kingdom Come at, oh man, it was like right before I left work on Monday. It was glorious. Before I dive into Kingdom Come, is there anything that I've played besides that this week? I worked on some Fallout mods, but that's Fallout mobs. I think that's probably it. Oh, I played a bunch of World of Tanks. Let's talk about that briefly.
Okay.
I did a World of Tanks promotional video this week. So I installed the game last weekend, played like a few games over the course of the week, and then Saturday I played like 5 hours. I kind of got hooked. It's pretty simple gameplay, but like just enough depth to be interesting. And you know me and my obsession with detail and immersion. I found the amount of detail on the tanks to be just awesome. Like, there's a crazy amount of vehicles in that game, as you would expect for a free-to-play game where they want a constant unlock chain going. But I picked like a couple of tanks and just went all in. And it actually had a lot of fun, which is cool because I've done videos now for sponsored videos for Crossout, Fortnite, Sniper Elite 4, and now World of Tanks. And so far I'm 4 for 4 on games that I really got into. Fortnite probably being the briefest of all of them because the skill gap terrified me so much. I don't know how much I'm going to go back. But yeah, all the sponsored games I've done, I've really enjoyed. I think I'm actually on a roll there. So if anybody wants to sponsor me, for anything about Far Cry 5 or that new Total War coming out, call me. I'm available. Let's talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance. If you just,
do you want to?
Do you want to talk about it with me, Jeremiah?
I mean, I can only talk about like the first hour because that's all I've played. So I can talk about some of the basics. I'm sorry. I've had a busy week.
I took a day off. First time since The Witcher 3, I think I've done that for a game.
Mm-hmm.
Did I take a day off for Battlefield 1? I might have done for Battlefield 1
I'm pretty sure you did, yeah.
So I'm up to 1 a year now. That's pretty good. Go first, Jeremiah.
Okay, well, I mean, I'll have a lot less to say than you do. First impression I got was, holy crap, is this game hard to run? On max settings, I was getting like 20 FPS. No, it was between like 20 and 31.
4K?
Yeah, 4K.
There you
go.
So
I knocked the settings down a little bit, and I'm already at a consistent 30 FPS. It's a very good-looking game. I do feel like it probably is going to need some more optimization patch. It's consistent, but it's brutal.
Which is true of all CryEngine games at launch. It's actually about what I was expecting.
To me, it feels like a AA game. Like, it doesn't feel like a AAA game in the voice acting or the animation or the dead eyes in those faces. But, you compare it to Skyrim or Oblivion or something, it's ahead of them in that area. Like, it's better than a lot of much more respected games when it comes to, like, interacting with people. But
it's like between Skyrim and The Witcher, somewhere, like, right in the middle, I think.
It's closer to Skyrim, I think.
All right.
Yeah. But it's not bad. I think the idea of the game is very interesting in that you play a nobody. Like, I assume you become more famous and things as the game goes on, but really, like, you're not special, and I like that. Like, you're not the savior of the world. You just had something bad happen to you, no spoilers, and you got to
watch the trailer.
And you got to figure out what to do about it. Like, that's it. That's the premise of the game. And I kind of like that it's normal in many ways, like, but also that could probably turn people off a little bit too, I think, because it's very slow at the start. And again, I've only played an hour, but it's a very slow opening hour while it gradually eases you into things, which is, better than the 7-hour intro into Assassin's Creed 3 or however long that was. Like, it's not terrible, but I do feel it's a little bit slow at first. The first bits of combat were tough, but I think that's supposed to be how it is because you don't know how to actually fight yet. I've encountered a couple bugs where like I was supposed to go talk to somebody and it marked everybody on my map except like for other things, but it did not mark the person I was supposed to go talk to. So I just wandered around until I found them. A few things like that, but yeah, that's about it. Like so far I am intrigued and I'd like to play more before forming a fully fleshed out opinion. So I'll turn the rest of it over to Dave.
Love it. I made a video last week that basically I was laying out some reasons why people should get excited for it. And I basically said in the video, I'm like, I'm actually worried that I'm getting too excited about this game because, 100-man development team is actually kind of low for a game of this size with the scope that it had grown to. And this is their first game. It was originally a Kickstarter game. It had a lot of things historically going against it, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was set up to fail. And I think that's the biggest takeaway that I've had. I'm think 15 or 16 hours in now. I've been playing a couple hours a night plus the day I took to just dive all the way in. And man alive, it's a huge world, and while it has rough edges, like I think probably the wonkiest thing in the whole game is it has like Skyrim level NPC wonk where you'll have people like walking over tables and like walking in place against a wall and constant stuff like that. It's pretty constant too. Like it's every few minutes you're gonna see something like that. But that's probably the worst of the wonk that I've seen. I got one quest bug where I had to go back about 15 minutes in a save because the quest wouldn't continue. But overall, the pros of this game are that it truly is historically accurate and in an interesting way. And this is not going to be for everybody, but for a history buff like me, it's like a love letter of just immersion. And I was watching Joel play the first like hour last night, and the noises he was making was completely inappropriate to stream. Again, for you guys that didn't watch the warm-up, someone posted a story of when they got to the first open world section, they started practicing their sneak, and they went into a store and stole some books about alchemy, hoping to level their alchemy skills up, ran off into the woods in the middle of the night with a torch to read the books. And Henry, the main character, is like, I sure wish I could read, because you're a blacksmith's son. You can't read. So there's actually, as a side quest, to go learn how to read. And I also love how poor you are in the game. When you get out of the prologue, Jeremiah, I'm going to keep this as vague as possible. All right. You come out of the prologue, and you're like, okay, finally to the open world part. And then someone confronts you and goes, really glad you made a recovery, man. I didn't think you were going to make it there for a while. Also, you owe the doctor a whole bunch of coin. Also, you owe me for food and lodging. It's like, oh, snap. Like, I have no money almost, and now I'm in debt. And I'm homeless. It's fantastic. Like, it's just such a unique start to an RPG. And for someone that usually loves hoarding a bunch of loot, I love the fact that I am scraping together pennies to, like, keep my, the gambeson, like the cloth armor, like, stitched together and not completely falling apart. And, like, you really do feel the struggle for money, and it's lasted longer than it has, in other games. I love the completely different feel of playing as a pauper, as a peasant. And PC Gamer posted about that, actually, an article today, just talking about how much they love playing as a peasant. But beyond that, a few of the things that have surprised me, I think the story is really, really good. And that was probably the two areas I was most convinced I was going to be wrong about my hype about, where I was worried the story would end up being cheesy, because you can cut a good trailer, right? Off of a big story. You can cut a good trailer and the story can be cheesy in the full game. And you can cut together a bunch of environment shots, right? And make the world look huge. And then it could be, a whole bunch of mountains that you can't go up. And it's just like, oh, here's a couple of points of interest. And those are two things that have super, super impressed me. Is the story, I think, is very good. It's not cheesy. It's not like, next level Game of Thrones or Witcher writing, but it's a classic, I guess you could call it a revenge story in a very realistic setting that's written with characters you actually care about, and it's not cheesy. And this is their first game, and the fact that they avoided that video game cheese is awesome. So I've been really getting into the story, and they've really impressed me there. And in fact, I don't think at this point they could ruin the story. They are on kind of a roll here. And then the size of the world is huge. It's absolutely massive. And I think that their claim of 35 to 50 hours for the main quest and 100 hours for a completionist run through, I think that's 100% accurate. I don't think that was PR speak. I don't think they were, padding the game out. And I think for me, it's probably going to be like another 20 hours or so because I like to just wander. So like I would bet for me like 100 plus hours. And again, for them to pull off a non-cheesy storyline with decent animations, and some of the voice acting I think is quite good. Some of it's rough, but some of it is quite good. None of it is like Oblivion's voice acting when it came out. And then you have an actual world that is as huge as they were promising, and perhaps even more so. I was so worried that I was overhyping the game, and I've been absolutely impressed so far. I am loving every minute of it.
I've heard people refer to it as it's kind of like this studio's The Witcher 1 is what they hope it's like. Like, would you agree with that?
Yeah, except for maybe even a bit more put together than Witcher 1, because I think Witcher 1 had some real development hurdles they had to overcome.
It did at first. I mean, most people who played it probably only played it after the Enhanced Edition came out, which fixed a lot of that stuff. Like, the game was like flat out broken before the Enhanced Edition. So it's
they had
better
like
than that.
they had like engine license issues that they were dealing with during development and all kinds of stuff for Witcher 1.
Yeah.
So these guys, I think, have it a little bit more together. But again, for this being their first game, I'm incredibly impressed. And I mentioned PC Gamer. I don't want to ramble all podcast about this, but I want to talk about PC Gamer's score for a second because I almost yelled out loud when I saw it, because their Metacritic on Monday night started out at 50 out of 100. Because a couple of the initial reviews were done last week before that day one patch dropped. And that's one big negative, is apparently the game was really broken without that 28 gig patch on day one. My version that I got this Monday had the patch, so I was good to go from the start. But some of the journalists played on a very broken version and had basically finished their reviews by launch day. So some of the initial reviews were really low. But when PC Gamer launched their review yesterday, they gave it an 84 out of 100. And they basically said, yeah, this game really does need like one more big patch and then probably some additional performance patches down the road. But they said that this is such a unique experience and such a classic RPG open world experience that harkens back to like, the golden age of Morrowind and stuff like that, that they're like, we can't knock more than 16 points off. And for this to be their first game and to get 84, that's awesome. So Kingdom Come Deliverance 2?
What, without trying to spoil anything,
sure.
What purchase advice would you have for people who are on the fence about this?
If you've been watching the game for years and you're truly excited about it, it's very playable now. Expect some rough edges and maybe a quest or two where you're going to lose like 20 minutes of reloading a save. If you're kind of just looking into the game now, there's a big patch apparently coming in a little under 2 weeks now. Just wait for that. I mean, if you're not in a rush, definitely wait for that next patch. To sum up the last probably 20 minutes of rambling before my voice gives out, Kingdom Come Deliverance, as excited as I was, has actually impressed me. And that is crazy for their first game out of the gate. Studio to watch, I think, for the future.
Yeah. And I'm very interested to see how they support it, like, for the next couple months. As much as it's selling, it should, like, there's a pretty good chance.
I heard there's some free DLCs coming and possibly some paid ones as well down the road, which makes sense. The game is huge. I imagine you want to keep working and adding on to that, that huge base of work for a while, because their first demo of the game was in like 2010. They had like 10 people working on a demo to sell to publishers. It's a lot of work.
All right. In news, Kingdom Come Deliverance has sold 500,000 units.
In the first 2 days, I believe it was, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's pretty awesome. Let me see. Yeah, 500,000. I mean, it's 2 days after launch, so yeah, 500,000 units.
And you would expect that game to have a relatively narrow audience. I think a lot of you guys that watch me and Jeremiah's channel, you know, you're fans of Bethesda games. It might be more, you know, of your kind of thing. But as the general gaming audience goes, it's probably not a market as easy of a marketable game compared to something like Fallout 4. So it is cool to see that that it is doing well. Kingdom Come Deliverance. Commander Chen, if you're just tuning in, go watch the video on my channel, the first impressions. It's like 10 minutes long. It'll cover it. Good stuff.
Any other news you want to cover?
No. Got some game launches coming up to get excited about, but it's a good start to the year, I'd say, after a quiet January.
Oh, one thing I thought that was interesting, Assassin's Creed Origins is out, and, you know, where it's been out, and many people like it, and I thought it was a pretty good game. Ubisoft says they're concentrating on Assassin's Creed Origins for the moment, rather than a new entry in the franchise, which of course used to be annual. They were in an earnings call yesterday, or earnings call a few days ago, and the Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot was asked if the series would return to a new game a year release schedule, and he said, "We are concentrating at the moment on AC Origins, which we're going to launch a few other DLCs. So you'll be amazed by what will come on Assassin's Creed Origins. That's all we'll say up until now." They said it's on track to almost double players' playtime versus prior Assassin's Creed titles. It's the most successful comeback of the Assassin's Creed franchise. Ubisoft Executive Director Alan Core says.
It's amazing what taking some time to go back and work things over can do.
It does, and it's nice they were given the chance to do it, because
also true.
And there's other ways to do it. I mean, Call of Duty's put out plenty of good, there's been plenty of good Call of Duty games, and they just switched to have another studio so they could, again, have more time to actually work on the games, but still be putting them out once a year, which they've been doing for, this will be the 11th year that they've been doing that. So, I mean, that's another way to do it if you got a lot of money.
Very true.
And then, did you see that the Mafia 3 developer, Hangar 13, has been hit with a bunch of layoffs?
That sucks. Yeah, I really enjoyed that game. I do want to go back and play the DLCs for it too. I think it's actually still installed. But the DLCs, one of them was awful. One of them was good because it was story-based. And I heard one of them was okay. But the reason I hadn't played them yet is because they came out for like $15 a piece, which is like Battlefield level DLCs. They were just, you know, smaller editions. I've been waiting for a sale.
I'm scanning to see if there's any more news we want to talk about. I really haven't done much with gaming this week other than playing Arma and a little bit of Kingdom Come. I'm looking forward to playing some this weekend, though. I should have a little more time to relax.
Yeah, I'd be totally fine with wrapping the podcast up right about here so that I can finish editing a Kingdom Come Quest video that goes live tomorrow, and then I can maybe play some more.
All right, so you're saying you wanna wrap it down. Does anybody in chat have anything else they want us to cover before we close down the second to last live podcast?
Half of us are already gone. It's the end of days, folks. The end of days.
And then it'll be the end of Dave being on the podcast. But
the end of Dave Z.
I can't stop the yawns.
It must be time to stop.
It must be time to stop. Everybody, thank you for coming out and being a part of the show. As always, well, yeah, as always, thanks for being a part of it.
Was you just thinking about not thinking them? On second thought, screw you guys, we're out.
No. I'm thinking this is like the last couple times I'm going to say this. As always, thank you for being a part of the show. We appreciate it. Thank you for being a part of it for all these years. We hope you guys will come out and watch the live stream. I guess we can live stream the last episode, can't we?
We can try.
Yeah, we'll try to live stream it.
If it works out, we can bring. So
we'll try to live stream it. It'll be next Friday night, the 23rd of February. probably at a slightly different time, which we'll tweet out. Follow at Casual Shenanigans, at Germ Gaming, at Ranger Dave on Twitter.
At Ranger Dave YT.
At Ranger Dave YT. Okay.
Man, Jeremiah's about to fall asleep here.
I am. But yeah, we'll try to do a live stream. If we can't, we'll do something else. Next Thursday, I'm probably going to air that clip show. So write in or tweet or comment with your recommended favorite Casual Shenanigans memory, with preferably a timestamp and an episode number, and I'll see if I can get it and add it into the show. But thank you for everybody for coming out. We'll miss you, and until next time, stay casual.
See you guys.